Okay, the first thing you have to know when you want to start using VBA and get information from the web is the concept of DOM, or Document Object Model. So this is a slide that will show you basically graphically what is a DOM. So we were at this point where we have set up our process. When you go into the internet, you're going to retrieve information. You know that the information is stored on the back end, on a server, and is sent to the client using browsers, and is transferred using the HTTP protocol, and is turned into from the browser into an HTML document, and it's rendered is turned from the HTTP protocol into an HTML document, and this HTML document is turned from the browser by the browser into a graphical representation on the display. Now, what is important for us in all this process is to focus on this, which is the HTML document, which includes also JavaScript and CSS. So basically, this is what you see on the browser. As you can see here, in the address bar, you have here demo01.html. So this is an HTML file, but on the browser, you see this graphic representation. You don't see an HTML file, you see the result of what the user has to see. But in theory, this is what we're using to display this. The browser renders this, but the server or the web server sends back as a response to the client this HTML file as a consequence of a client HTTP request. So what is in PHP, what is on the web server, is turned into an HTML file and then sent back to the browser. The browser renders this HTML file in this way. So this is where we are going to get information, because in theory, if this is an HTML file, this is what is really an HTML file, is a document containing a certain structures, and in each element of the structure we have the information that is displayed on the browser. If we know how is the hierarchy of the objects displayed on the browser exactly in the HTML file, we know where we have to go and get information. So this is where the DOM is coming from, is the breakdown of an HTML file or document into its own elements in the hierarchical structure. So here we have the HTML file, which includes a head and a body. So these are a breakdown, head and body. Then the head is broken down in title. The body is broken down in H1. You will see later what is H1 and what is a title. Then we have an HR, then we have a div, and inside the div we have a table, and inside the table we have two elements, T-head and T-body, and inside each of them we have other elements, like for the T-head we have the TH, for the T-body we have the TR, and within the TR we have the TDs. So rows and columns of a body of a table. So what we get is this. We get the HTML file. Here we are. Then underneath we have the head, which contains the title. Then we have the body that contains the H1 element, then contains also the div element and other elements on the same level of the hierarchy. The hierarchy, you see, is done by these lines. Okay, so these are the children of the previous one. And then inside the div I have a table. Inside the table I have the T-head element, and then this contains the TH element, its children. And then we have the T-body element within the table, which contains the TR elements or rows, and each of them contains the columns or TD elements. So this is basically our DOM, our document object model structure. If we have this in mind, we know how to get this information, because we have objects in VBA, like in JavaScript, DOM. In VBA, it is called DOM document object. And if we know this, we use this, we can retrieve the single nodes and get inside the single nodes their HTML, like the t-head, the HTML is this part, or the text, the one that you see here, heading 1 and 2, etc. So if I'm going to get the row of a column of a table in the body you see here, I can also use the DOM document object to retrieve information of this element, just individuating, selecting the single elements included here. So I can get by tag name. TR is the tag name. You will see later what is a tag, what is the tag name, and so on. So I'm gonna get information from the tag name or from the ID of this element using special functions in VBA. For the DOM document object, then by title, by attribute, again by attribute, or by class name. So there are different methods that you can use in VBA for the DOM document object to retrieve information. So you can get one by ID and so on. Those kind of elements, so those kind of elements that you can retrieve if you use one of these functions can be HTML element collections, so you can get more than one. Like for example, if I'm looking for elements having a certain class, I can get more than one, so more elements can have one class. And these are element collections, so I need to create a loop of elements to get the right one within the collection. And then we have elements, HTML elements, like elements having ID. ID is unique, so this is an element. But you see with these plural elements, that means that you find more than one element with this title, okay, or than one element having this class name, and more than one element having this tag name. So these are the lowest level of an HTML file in a DOM document. So the HTML elements, collections, and the HTML elements. So if I find the collections, I have to get the element according to other criteria, like I don't know, you get the first one, the second one, or the one containing the row or the ID, like that. Okay, the same is for the TDs. You see, also they have attributes. So if you know this concept, this is very simple. It's a graphical representation. You know how to get information with VBA later when I explain you how to use the objects and to put this data into an Excel file.